Hi, welcome back to Josh the Warrior TV, where I share recipes, routines, and I talk about my redemptions. But I also talk or share stories. I talk about topics and just anything about life and what goes on in the world or what myself, right? Um, I wanted to talk about Donald Trump, right? I was watching the news and you know, I was kind of a little bit disturbed that how Donald Trump was trying to get involved with this Iran and Israel situation. And I know that America always is here to back up Israel, but I know from the past that Donald Trump always once said that he would always try to diffuse the situation out there, regardless he's backing up um, Israel, but he said that he would always try to stop the war, and of course, because war is bad for business. But you could never stop war. There's always a saying in the Bible: "There's a time for peace and there's time for war." Right? It's biblical. But like I said, when it comes to politics, I can like the President Trump today, and tomorrow I could dislike him. I might like a lot of things that he says, and there might be few that I disagree, or vice versa, right? Like I said, I have no problem that I voted for Donald Trump, but it's not what who I voted for. It's the bills and the thing that he was um, posting or having things to be permitted in laws or in bills, right? So which there is a lot, you know what I mean? And I'm not going into it. There's no regrets. But like I said, I voted for him, and then later on I might dislike him. Never know. But on this situation, it was kind of bothering me with the situation with Israel and Iran, and so I read this thing. Right? It's a funny thing because it goes hand in hand with a story about my personal self that my friend reminded me of. So it says right here, speaking after the G7 summit, Trump insisted Iran cannot have nuclear weapon. It's very simple, demanding a real end to the enrichment and Iran to give up entirely, right? So he's asking Iran to remove their nukes, right? Their nuclear weapon. He's demanding them to remove that and any other country that has it because of course, nuke is a very dangerous weapon not only to Israel or to our country, but to the whole world, right? It's very something scary. Um, so he's over there trying to defuse it. So when I heard that, at first I was like, oh, of course, man, he's doing the right thing. He want to go over there and defuse, not only fix that problem, but he want to tell Iran, hey, man, remove those nukes, right? So, and I support that, right? I'm like, yo, man, I'm behind that all the way. So I talked to my friend on the phone, right? And we started talking. And we started talking about this Trump thing, this Trump situation. And he's a Trump hater, you know what I mean? And that's his opinion, and I have to respect that. So we have good discussions about things why he just disliked the president, right? So so I'm telling him we're talking about the Iran and Israel situation, and he asked me how I felt about it. I was like, man, he's doing the right thing, man. He's going over there and trying to tell Iran to remove their nukes. And my boy, he tells me, he goes, okay, so he's gonna tell Iran to remove their nuclear weapons, right? That they can't have it, but we could have it. And I pause and I go, I mean, we ain't crazy like that, though. You know what I'm saying? Like we're not we're not crazy as Iran would try to threat everybody else with those kind of weapons, right? And he's like, man, let me tell you something, man. He goes, he's trying to tell that country to remove. He's trying to tell them to put down their nukes, remove it, but America can keep theirs, right? He goes, let me share a story with you. He goes, so he shared a story about me, and this is an old school story. One time I was at a, I was at a bar at a parking lot, me and my friends, and we were drinking at the parking lot, not in the bar, but outside of the bar, and we're hanging out, right? And we're hanging out, and one of my friends, he eventually was trying to get crazy with some other dudes by their car in the parking lot. So eventually he started a fight, you know what I mean, among one of those men. So eventually there was a small brawl broke out. So we all started fighting, and by that time when I started noticing that there was more of them and a little bit of us, right? So I went into my friend's car and I grabbed a crowbar, and I grabbed this crowbar, right? You know those crowbars where you lock up your steering wheel. So I grabbed that crowbar and boom. So I was like, man, I'm not gonna get jumped right here, right? I ain't gonna get outnumbered. So this guy seen me with a crowbar, and when he seen me with the crowbar, he grabbed like a 40-ounce bottle and he came up close, and we was like facing off, right? We were facing off. He had his weapon, I had my weapon, and I was like, I was still kind of scared too. I was like, even though I had a crowbar, I was a little bit nervous and scared because like, oh damn, this dude got a weapon, man. I always want the advantage, right? So I tell the dude, I said, hey, check this out. I said, hey, you put that bottle down, and I put my crowbar down, right? And eventually, he threw the bottle. He threw the bottle like, hey, man, let's do this. Like, what's up? And I told him, nah, you messed up, right? So eventually, he threw his weapon away. I kept my weapon, right? So the point is, this is what my boy was trying to say. That's what's gonna happen. That Trump and his administration, or his military men, or his generals, or whoever is in control or advising him in military strategy, is telling Iran, put down your weapon, and only me can have this weapon, right? Like being a little bully. So, man, when I heard that, that made a lot of sense, you know? And I never looked at it like that. Can that be wrong? It could be wrong, right? I mean, but that could be right. You know, my friend he used a small analogy of my situation into a political situation that goes on between two countries and how serious that is. So, I mean, I hope that ain't true, you know what I mean, with this situation, and I don't want it to go too far with this kind of situation with nukes and people being in power and acting out of control and getting out of hand, you know what I'm saying? Because already getting out of hand with all these bombs going over back and forth. But I just wanted to share that how my boy broke it down, you know, when there's two people with each on each side have both weapons, and whenever one puts their weapon down, one's gonna show now he's in charge because he's still gonna keep his weapon, which, you know, I did it. I definitely did it, you know what I'm saying? So I see why America wouldn't do it, right? So I wanted just to share that story about how I look at that situation, how my friend pointed that out to me, and I thought that was very wise to see it in a different way from a situation that I went through and how I used it, and that President Trump could be trying to do that, right? Because he's saying you can't be going to tell somebody, hey, you got to remove that when you have it in your own backyard, right? You got to be on the same grounds, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, so that was my video today. I wanted to share my outlook or my perspective on that situation between the President Trump or United States and Iran, trying to bully them or trying to punk them and say, man, you can't be having these weapons or you can't be doing this. I mean, we only hear so much what's going on in the news or what we read on articles, right? Because most times I read certain articles that I believe that are not biased, and they try to not there to speak bad or make him look good. They're just speaking the facts and what's going on, right? So yeah, that was my topic of today, of sharing that story, how it related to one of my situation and what's happening right now, you know, with these two worlds. So like how I always say, I hope you like this video. Make sure you like, subscribe. Never forget that I always will come out with more videos, more topics, but I'm always moving forward to share more recipes and routines and talk talk about my redemption, because it's about fate, food, and fitness. And I see you on the next one. Peace.